FHS season tickets.
Welcome back to another episode of FHS Season Tickets. I'm Nick.
And I'm Michael, and today we're going to be talking NBA playoff action, starting off with our smallest topic of the day, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Small.
Over the Indiana Pacers. I would say compared to the next two topics that
It's
we
the
have.
Cavs, nothing small when it comes to the Cavs.
I mean, yeah, Cavs up 2-0, and I would say they've been the worst team in the playoffs, not going to lie.
Yeah, dude, apparently all the media outlets, dude, if we're up 2-0, and it seems as if we're like down 0-2, down 0-3.
You know a top
having to do a
East team
comeback.
that's down 2-0?
Oh, well, I think we're going to get into that later, Mike. I mean, maybe I got to rack my mind to it. Maybe one of the most overrated teams I can remember. But back to the Cavs, yeah. We're up 2-0, and all I see is some bad press saying that we have awful defense, even though we have two wins. And people think LeBron's sugarcoating stuff, but I think he's right on track. I think that I saw signs of the team that could even beat the Golden State Warriors. Like, I would almost have them, because they just look like an unstoppable force at times. Then they just, by their own doing, not by something that the other team does, they hold themselves back. So I think that they will be just fine. Mike, what are your thoughts on the Cavs?
Seeing that they're going to beat the Warriors, that's bold from you. I don't see that, but I definitely see a team that's going to
Dude, I think so. Who's guarding Kevin Love, LeBron? Like, who's guarding those boys? Like,
I mean,
all the depth that we have on the bench, like, once everything clicks, like, I think
can
it
the
will.
Cavs defend the Warriors?
That doesn't matter with that team because it's like a different style of play. Like all these other teams, I don't know. I just feel like the up and downness of the game, it will all work itself out on that end. I think that, and by that time, finals, I mean, the energy that comes along with it, I don't think you have to worry because, like, teams that are really great at defense, like Grizzlies, even though they have, like, no offensive ability, like, or even Spurs, like, those teams are so good at defense, it never seems like it matters. I think you have to beat the Warriors. I think you have to play with their style of offense and their style of play, but, Mike, and tweak it a little bit.
Yeah, going back to the Cavs point, I mean, they're up 2-0. I have no complaints, like, from the Cavs, even though both of the games were pretty close. If the Cavs get a sweep, they're going to get some good rest because I think we'll talk about this later, like more in detail. But I think the Bucks-Raptors series could go 7 games pretty easily.
Hopefully.
At least 6. Like, that's what everybody's saying right now.
Hopefully we get that sweep because we need those rests. We swept the first 2 rounds of the playoffs last year, and that was well-needed rest.
Yeah, I totally agree that gave the Cavs like an edge in the finals because they didn't play as many games as the Warriors did leading into the NBA Finals because obviously the Warriors, not only did they go into 7 games against the Thunder last year, but also the Trailblazers took 2 games from them. So they were definitely more tired than we were entering the NBA Finals. But overall, I think the Cavs are fine, not too worried about the defensive effort. 2-0 against Indiana Pacers. Would not be complaining at all, especially given the way that some of the other top seeds in the East and West have been faring so far. And we're going to lead into the actual top seed in the East, even though nobody's been treating them like the top seed, and for good reason. The Boston Celtics are down 0-2 to the
They almost feel like
Bulls.
they're like a third seed because everyone talks about Wizards Cavs in the finals. It's actually so rare that it's happening, but
I mean, I thought that the Wizards would beat the Celtics.
Well, so did I.
Meet. But, like, I had the Celtics in 5 over the Bulls. I still do believe in the Celtics winning this series in 7 games. I think they're going to grind it out. And
dude, but they're going to Chicago now with a hyped crowd.
3-1 deficit. So I'm taking the
The
Bulls.
way Wade, Rondo, and Butler are playing right now, it's unreal.
I don't think they can keep it up for a 7-game series, even though they might only have to keep it up for a 5-game series even a 4-game series with the way the Bulls are playing right now. But I think eventually the Celtics are just going to find ways to get wins. I think they're going to win Game 3, which I think could surprise a lot of people because a lot of people are putting the Bulls at favorites right now. I am still on the side of the Celtics. I think they're going to advance.
Yeah, which is just wild because it's an 8 seed. They should never be favored against the first seed. But
I mean, they did only win, what was it? 11 less games than them in the regular season, and considering both of the teams you could argue are more regular season teams, like the Cavs, if they really wanted to, they could have
I don't think the Bulls are more regular season teams. I mean, look at their breakdown of the roster. They got Wade, who is older, and I don't think he was saving himself, but I think the playoffs definitely, because I don't think he was saving himself. I don't even know if they knew they were going to go to the playoffs, but the smell of the playoffs and the rest he usually gets during the regular season because of injuries and such, I think that first round series, he's into it, playing for Chicago for the first time. And then you got Rondo, who definitely is not playing like this during the regular season because he's going up against the Celtics. And we all know the history that those two forces have between each other. I mean, Rondo playing like vintage Celtics Rondo right now, maybe because he sees the green, he sees that old jersey that he's wearing over on Isaiah Thomas, who, tell me 4 years ago you would think Rajon Rondo would be worse than Isaiah Thomas, and they would be just all these scenarios. And then Jimmy Butler played well in the regular season. Then you got guys like Mirotic, who is never really, he's so inconsistent, but I mean that can rear its ugly head in the playoffs. I think even 2 years ago, Mirotic went like off against us in a couple games against the Cavs. Yeah,
like
so he can always explode. And then so that Bulls team is not anything but a regular season team. They're not consistent at all, but the Celtics are consistent. But that's just regular season consistency. It's a whole new animal in the playoffs. I think they can keep it up though, based on Rondo playing, the Celtics playing well now. National TV, I think, is a factor with Rondo, and they don't really look like their playing style. It doesn't look like something that cannot be sustained. Other than their known inconsistencies, they're not like shooting a lot of threes. Rondo's just getting a lot of assists like he used to get, and meaningful assists this time, and he's doing everything like going for not going for triple doubles, but getting close to triple doubles. Jimmy Butler and Dwayne Wade both getting their points. Mirotic, like we said, goes off a couple games, but he'll simmer down. But I don't think it's too unsustainable for the Bulls to be doing this. I just think the Celtics have to play a lot better, and I'm not saying they can't, but with recent things like sadly, I just so much sympathy for Isaiah Thomas right now, but that's still a factor. That's awful. If he has to go home after getting swept on the first seed with the loss of his sister, sudden loss, that will be awful, but it's still a factor. And I don't hope because I'm not a Celtics fan, but for Isaiah Thomas' case, and maybe Celtics can regather themselves and play with a little bit more fire almost, and they are talented, but I can't really see them winning the series, honestly. Everything is in the Bulls' favor. Losing 2 games at home is tough.
My theory on why I think the Celtics are going to win, I don't think the Bulls are going to get 2 of the next 4, which would end the series in 6 if they did get 2 of the next 4. And I also think the Celtics would win a Game 7 if it did get to that scenario. You mentioned the Isaiah Thomas situation. I think it is, you could argue, a major reason why the Celtics have struggled to start it off, because the team just doesn't look emotionally like the Bulls are playing with a lot more passion, even though they were on the road. We'll see how that carries over to the United Center in Chicago. But the Bulls also, they look bigger and more athletic than the Boston Celtics, which is not something you should be saying about an 8 seed over a 1 seed. Al Horford looks kind of lost out there. The point I was making about the Bulls was, would you rather play the Bulls or the Pacers or the Bucks? I would say the Bucks would be the most scary team to face in the playoffs, and you have Pacers and Bulls, even though Pacers and Bulls are pretty much interchangeable as they were the 7 and 8 seeds.
You think you'd rather
identical records?
You'd rather play the Pacers than the Bulls?
No, I would rather play the Bulls than the Pacers. I'd say the Bucks are more dangerous than Pacers and Bulls.
Wow, you'd rather play the Bulls?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Because
with 3 arguable stars on that team?
I still feel like if you just pack the paint,
the Pacers have no one on that team other than Paul George will be a star.
They have been jumping at so many pump fakes. I remember in Game 1, somebody made a tweet. They were like, the Celtics are jumping out of their seats to guard 3-point shots when Chicago is 1 for 12 from 3-point land. I'm just like, Boston, do you not know how to play defense? This team cannot shoot. You're falling for every pump fake. Imagine if you play the Cavs or a team like the Wizards with Bradley Beal and Otto Porter and Marcus Morris. That's going to be bad for the Celtics if they're falling for these pump fakes from these guys who are scrubs and can't shoot. If you're falling for a D-Wade pump fake, I mean,
Yeah.
what, like Kyle
For
Korver
three,
can do for
I
four.
agree with that. No, but
They did shoot 3 for 4 in game 2, which, like, watch out.
Yeah.
Might be having to get a girlfriend if you remember.
oh man, Christian. No, but last note about this game for me. I know you've tweeted about it. Brad Stevens like on their hot seat or whatever. I think that's ridiculous, but it is such a mark on his legacy. Like 2 of
Win
10.
in the playoffs.
That means that you've never even come close to winning a series in like what is that, like a 4-year stretch?
Oh, third year, yeah.
3 years, you're 2 and 10 in the playoffs. That's pitiful. That's really bad.
Well,
That's
here's
really bad.
the argument against that. The first year, they were an 8th seed and massively overachieved. They weren't expected to make the playoffs, and they went against the Cavs. Well, maybe they were a 7th seed. I think they might have been a 7th seed.
Yeah, they were 17.
So they overachieved, made the playoffs, and they got swept by the Cavs because they just weren't that talented.
True.
And then last year,
Took out Kevin Love. Thanks, Olynyk.
Yeah, I mean, that's a topic for another day. Still bitter about that. But then they played
I'm not. We got the
Hawks-
championship.
the Hawks last year, I think. And they lost them 4-2. So
It's
there's
the Hawks in the
losses.
playoffs, though.
Hawks in the playoffs.
The Hawks in the playoffs are one of the worst playoff teams of all time. You could look at Al Horford, like, that's not a playoff pickup. That's a regular season pickup. That's not a playoff pickup at
And now
all.
also, Boston, you talk about all their great cap space, they're going to be paying Al Horford a lot of money for the next 3 years. Like,
Hey, those are good regular season wins. Like, he was a good regular season center, but this man in the playoffs, their whole roster was not a playoff
if they
roster.
can
The
figure
Hawks,
out to trade Al Horford like this offseason,
Kyle Korver's
Danny
possibly the
Ainge
most.
is like
Yeah.
a hero, like in Boston.
Kyle Korver is possibly the most dangerous person on that Hawks team, like playoff wise. Like he's the one that can get hot in the
was going
playoffs.
off for a little bit.
Think. All right.
And then also maybe Millsap, because Millsap's the only hope
Okay, you're right.
in Atlanta right now, because that's why I picked Washington in a sweep. Like, I was looking at this, and even Vegas had a lot of faith in the Hawks, and I was just like, what are you seeing in this Hawks team that's going to have them beat the Wizards? Like, I didn't see anything. Game 1 went good. We'll see about Game 2 tonight. But the final thing we're going to be talking about, the Milwaukee Bucks went up 1-0 on the Toronto Raptors and played a hell of a Game 2. Malcolm Brogdon and Matthew Dellavedova, I believe Chris Middleton, all had a 3 inside 2 minutes to go to give the Bucks the lead, 93-92. All of them, unfortunately, missed if you were a Bucks fan. But they've been competing with Toronto in Toronto. Nick, do you think that the Bucks are going to win this series now?
I don't know. This Toronto team, yet talented, have 2 really positions that they're 2 talented superstars. Really don't affect the game too much, and Serge Ibaka's not. They affect the game a lot, but if you had 2
Ibaka
superstars,
was
maybe
a
at
huge
center,
pickup.
and
If they
then
didn't pick him up.
Yeah,
I think they'd be
Ibaka.
in deep trouble right now.
yeah, good pickup. Still not playing like out of this
Star.
world like you did in OKC, but I don't know. With Giannis, like I said earlier when we were making predictions, Giannis has to go off every game, and Malcolm Brogdon has to play really well, and Chris Middleton has to play really well. To say those 3 players can do that every game is a tough prediction, so I don't think that. I think Toronto still pulls it off. What about you, Mike?
Their offense wasn't even that great last night. I still don't know why they're playing Dellavedova over Tony Snell in crunch time. Because Tony Snell had like 14 points, 4 for 6 from the 3-point line. And they're playing Delly, who shot like 3 for 10, 1 for 4 from 3. I was so disappointed in the Bucks for playing him because he like missed a couple shots late, had a turnover that really cost the Bucks. I know I'm sounding like a Delly hater, and like he was great for the Cavs, but for the Bucks, he's just been a big time disappointment. But the Raptors, they've been an interesting playoff team. Kyle Lowry and DeRozan haven't showed up in the playoffs in their career up to this point. Maybe this will be the year that they change it. Lowry hit a big shot with 11 seconds to go to really ice the game there. I'm going to stick with my original prediction of Raptors in 7, but I really like the way these Bucks are playing right now. Anything you want to hit on quick in the Western Conference?
The West is kind of shaking out how like we thought it would. No huge surprise.
About the Thunder versus Houston game. Like, that was a 2-point game with like 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. Like, I know that the Thunder got blown out and it looked really bad in the third and fourth quarter, but if the Thunder steal game 1, then everybody has the takes of, oh, James Harden is overrated, and then they drop 30. Like, just settle down. Don't be making these the Thunder are trash tweets. I still think they're going to be able to push the Rockets to a 6 or 7 game series. I said 7 at the start. I think that the Thunder are going to be fine, even if they do lose tonight. I think at home they will play some good basketball and get some wins over the Rockets. But game 1 looked ugly, but forget about it. I think the Thunder are still fine.
Oh, I like that. I like that way that will end. I like that take by Mike. Nothing else really to talk about of note in the Western Conference. Good first round matchup, like Mike said, though, with Thunder and Rockets. Should be fun to watch, and excited for tonight.
Yeah, and then the Jazz series got blown open by Gobert's injury. So,
Yeah.
That's so disappointing if you're a Jazz fan. We're not going to give you like our full prediction because that injury like really changes how everybody looks at the series.
Yeah.
And then the Grizzlies Spurs. How about that for data? That was a really out there rant. And then the Warriors got a good win, and that wrapped up for this episode of FHS.
Hey, Chris Paul, maybe you can make the Hall of Fame. Tied the series 1-1. Let's see what happened.
Hey, you beat the Jazz without Rudy Gobert at home.
If you lose in the first round, you're not making the Hall of Fame. And that's going to wrap it up this episode of FHS Season Tickets.